This is the bonus section podcast, episode number 50. What you do when nobody's watching is what matters the most. Are you the type of person that knows you were meant for something greater in this lifetime and that somewhere inside of you there's just this bigger version of yourself trying to break through? But in spite of all your self-development attempts, you just can't seem to find the way up. Well, then, hey, you are definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the bonus section and the host of this podcast, and a person just like you trying to live the most fulfilling life possible. So to help you take immediate action to get moving in that sort of a direction, we take all the notes from each episode and we post them for a short period of time over at freethinkingtools.com. That's freethinkingtools.com. That way, when you have some time to work on yourself, you can think. See, the key to self-development, I believe, is the constant provocation to think and to grow your perspective of how the world works really for you. And that's the key. All right. What do you do when nobody's watching is the question really that this whole podcast begs. Let's talk about first why that even matters. You see, most of us, and I'm not going to speak for the entirety of the population, some that don't have the capacity to really feel that drive, but most of us have something in life that we really want for ourselves. And I'm not talking about a lot of times when you talk to women that have had children, I just want to be a mother. I get that stuff. Right? And I have 3 girls myself, but you want something for yourself though too. It's that concept of you have to in life and in general, put your own oxygen mask on first. They say that if the plane gets in trouble, put your oxygen mask on first, then you can take care of the world. So the key is there's something that we want really badly in life, and it's going to take some work. It's going to take maybe even a lifelong approach to self-development, self-improvement. It's just going to take all of that. To get what we want, for the most part, we will have to become a bigger or different version of who we are right now. Period. I've heard people try to explain me away in coaching. Well, I just like the way that I am fine right now. Well, fine. I'm not talking to you. Wonderful. If you've achieved that and there's nothing left, wonderful. I don't know, sit in a boat and drift down the river. Sounds great. But I'm talking to all those people who are still yearning for this thing. There's something in life that you want, and it might be a stage. Some of these stages, what's important to you today won't be, but what is important to you today is. So, I have kids that are trying to still get into certain colleges, and there are certain things that they have to do to even be considered for that sort of thing. So it takes work, and it takes time, and it takes commitment, and it takes not listening to a lot of other people who try to pull them back. So, or change their direction. How do any of us know what's important to somebody? Because most people never fully articulate what's on their mind. You can live with somebody for years and never really know exactly how they see the world. It's absurd to even assume it is. Oh, but we're so in love, and you stop. And we think alike, and we finish each other's sentences. We're all such individuals, and there's so much going on in this huge brain of ours that we have to deal with us at some point in time as individuals. So there's why this subject really matters. So what do you do? And again, I'm always talking about something to become, so I have to pick analogies. I don't know what you want to become. You want to become an engineer. You want to become the great public servant. There are so many things to become. I don't know what's important to you, but I'll tell you what you have to start with, and that's a strategy. If you want to become something, don't just wake up and start assuming things and presuming things, because you don't know what you don't know today. So you can see the result, the true north. I'm listening to a lot about Toyota and its business approach so that I can copy some of this. And that's the point here. You want to borrow strategies from people and businesses and organizations that are already successfully doing some of the things that you'd like to do. Now, we're all such individuals. Like I said, you're not just copying them blindly and trying to be them. That will never work. But there are core fundamentals. You'll often hear the word immutable, right? Unbendable, unbreakable. Those are the types of things that are universally the way certain things work. Well, the way to success that you can see common in all sorts of success is that there's a strategy behind it. Sometimes successful people can't even articulate their strategy because they just don't have a teacher's mind. They don't chunk it up. But since they were little children, they have repeated certain things that perhaps they picked up from their sensei, their teacher, the master, whatever. They saw it and they put it in a certain order and it became a strategy, and they have repeated it over and over and over and over and over. So you want to go out and look for these strategies and borrow them. You want to listen to audiobooks. You want to listen to more podcasts. You want to do whatever it takes to understand that there are people that have found some of these immutable laws. They've put them to work for themselves or their businesses or their groups or whatever, relationships, and they've used these strategies. So go borrow them. Go borrow them and put them down and put them in a certain order. And I am a huge fan of the concept of chunking up. Don't go microeconomic or small. Go big. Look at big chunks. What are the things that you really need to do? You want to be an athlete? Well, that's going to start with the body health, all the way from sleep to food plans to, if it requires it, stretching, lifting weights, cardio work. You see what I'm saying? There's 5 chunks right away that I can throw on the table for somebody that's in an athletic endeavor. Put those in order, then go microeconomic. Okay, I got it. So every single morning, my first strategy is I spend an hour stretching. Right? The next thing is I go to meet my coach and we lift weights or we run or whatever. We hit the tennis ball. See what I'm saying? You just start to put these big chunks in order and you repeat them. And you keep looking at the result. But then you go observe somebody else and you get curious. And there are a lot of people that love to share what they did because we all want to matter. I'm not saying everybody. Some people have a total mentality of scarcity. They think everybody's after them and they want to tell you a thing and they're super successful. So not everybody's going to help. But there will be plenty of people that want to share how they did what they did, especially when they get older and they're no longer in the business. They're no longer in the sport. They love to share with you. And you know what? What's old is new again all the time. We always want to think that there's something amazingly different in success, but some of these laws have been around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So thousands even. So look for a strategy that you can borrow from successful people and start putting it in your order next. But once you have that, all that stuff that's in order, I sort of hinted at this, schedule the time to do these things and fight for it until it becomes habitual. I can think about when I have 5 kids. It takes an enormous amount of energy. I was talking to my mother about this last night, and to be really, really good with children, it takes way more than you ever think. You can sit there and say, I'm going to be the greatest parent in the world, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And then you collide into the reality of raising children, especially in a modern digital age where, you're under attack with all these ideas and concepts all the time, as we are as adults. But what trying times for kids and all the pressure that comes on. Well, that's going to take all of you. And you're going to ride the highs and lows with your children, and you're going to go up and down and whatever it would be. And you just have to schedule the time to be there. And you just have to fight for it until it becomes habitual. To go down the list of the kids and to spend the time, go down my list of kids, you might have 1, right? But to spend that time and make it habitual and fight for it. Fight for the time. Time is ticking down all the time on you. And I have a massive sense of gratitude for time, and I want to be habitual in what I do. And when you're habitual with scheduling this stuff that is strategic to help you get what you want, what you're recognizing as these steps go along in your life, what I recognize that I'll share with you, you're editing out the stuff that doesn't really matter. You can't do everything that you have a remote interest in life. You can't. You'll just be spread so thinly, and that you'll have this strange sense of being lost, never really moving towards fulfillment or self-esteem that you are capable of being really good at anything. So at some point in time, you have to make some decisions of what is most important to you. And again, that will change over time. Like I said, what's important to you today might not be tomorrow. So you'll make these adjustments. But when you really start to find a couple of things that give you a good sense of self-esteem, And self-esteem, I mean, Nathaniel Bradenton, I think the book is the X number of pillars. I think it's 7 pillars of self-esteem. It's been a while since I read it, but I'll never forget that when he talked about self-esteem, there were 2 core points. One was self-efficacy. Efficacy means capability, that I'm capable of surviving in this world, putting food on the table, roof over my head. And the other one is worthy, that I'm worthy of all that success. Really, really good stuff, that just hang on to that. And that self-esteem, like when you think about those 2 things, those are critical to the way that you see yourself in the world. Are you happy? You want to be happy? Look at that self-esteem pillar with those 2 things and go do some extra work on that. This will all begin to make sense to you. That if I fight and schedule time to do the thing that I love, you can really make a living at anything. I mean, it's so weird that we became the society that started telling everybody, oh, you've got to be a doctor, you've got to be a nurse, you've got to be this, you've got to be that. What? What are you talking about? There are people that make a living and put food on the table doing all sorts of things that you've never even imagined. Open your eyes to what's really happening out there, especially in a digital world where we can learn faster than ever before. We can indulge ourselves in our passions and we can monetize them. So schedule the time for this stuff and fight for it, because then it becomes a habit. And when it becomes a habit, and it's a good habit because it's leading to self-esteem, you're probably making a living at it. And then you really have something going on that's special. And the next point here is, but you see, this is really going to take some work. You're going to have to work on yourself. You're going to have to work at these things. Let's say you do something artsy and everybody says, oh, it's so difficult to become a successful artist. How do they know? Did they ever sit down? And did they ever sit down and have patience for the process? Were they passionate about it, or are they just making it up because it seems so flighty to them? They don't know a first thing about it because they have no interest in it. But yet artists get rich all over the world all the time. Art seems to be one of the greatest storages of value in history. So what are they talking about? What are we talking about here? You're talking about somebody else's opinion of what's important to you. Beware. Whoosh, pull the shade and yell, busy on my passion. Now, I'm going to draw a big circle around all this stuff. And I'm going to say that this has to become private for you. This is you, all alone with this stuff, trying to make it happen. We've got strategies we're borrowing. We're fighting for time. We're trying to fight for patience because we can't even fathom how quickly we will progress if we'll just be patient for this process and enjoy it. But the key point here was, when do you do all this? You see, the point of the podcast was what you do when nobody's watching is what matters the most to you. Because only you know what you're doing when nobody's watching. And how dare you look in the mirror and complain that you're nobody and that you don't matter if you haven't gone and put in this kind of work. Why do that to yourself? You haven't even given yourself a chance. You haven't even taken this massive amount of time that slips through. And I know it goes by quickly, and it goes by quickly when you don't do anything worthwhile to you when nobody's watching. That's where it's just accelerating through the hourglass for you. We're waking up and we're finding months, quarters, years, decades go by, and we're all depressed that we don't have what we want. But we let that sand accelerate through the hourglass, didn't we? It just kept going and going because when nobody was listening, we watched 15 movies. We binge watched this. We drank a bottle of booze. We popped a couple of more happy pills. Whatever it is that we did, how can we look in the mirror and blame anybody else but ourselves? And I don't want you to beat yourself up. So that wasn't the point. If any of those things apply to you, make a decision right now to stop. Make a decision that there is that thing that's still there that you badly want. And no matter how far away it seems and how impossible, just start by take your phone, instead of going on and doing something silly with it, just search for somebody that's done it already. Look at their strategy, learn about them. It takes minutes of your time. And all of a sudden, the sand going through the hourglass slows down. Now all of a sudden you're interested and you're indulging And instead of 10 hours going by and you don't know what happened, 30 minutes has gone by and you've learned an enormous amount about the thing that mattered to you. Just believe me on this one. Try me. Send me a note. Send me a DM. Send me anything. Let me know you're alive out there. And I'm telling you, you will not believe how quickly you can right your ship and get it moving in the direction. I don't care how young you are, how old you are, what your financial circumstances, all crap. That's all crap. It's all noise. Those are all excuses that somebody else makes, we make. Just use these basic strategies because this is how people that are successful get along. And a lot of them can't articulate it. I just have this God-given ability to chunk things up and share it with you. I'm telling you, this is how I run my business. This is how I stay in a semblance of order, of shape, physically, because I have a strategy for food. I have a strategy for sleep. I have a strategy for business. It's not always easy. There are many days like I'm stressed out, but I go back to these strategies and I fight for this, and I'm patient for the process, and I practice gratitude that I'm aware of this stuff. So please take these tools and use them. Let's summarize it. What do you do when nobody's watching? Because that's what matters most. And why it matters is because you want something badly in your life. You know that, and I know that. So start with a strategy that you borrow from successful people. Good place to start. Schedule the time and fight for it, right? Schedule the time to do those strategies and fight for it until it becomes a habit. Then you're doing it regularly. And don't underestimate the patience for process, but stop doing this because somebody else thinks it's great. You need to think it's great. I'll summarize it this way. Most of us want something out of life that really matters to our sense of self-esteem and ultimately self-fulfillment. However, we're far too concerned with the public approval and validation of other people. So we tend to only do the work when people are watching. However, the true achiever knows that the pursuit matters only to them the most and works at it for the most part when nobody's watching or applauding. All right, remember, you can take immediate action to get moving in a better direction for your life because we take all the notes from each episode and we post them at a place called freethinkingtools.com because that's all they are. They're just notes and ideas to help you think. Now, of course, I'm hoping you'll put it in a strategy and you'll execute a plan for your life. But freethinkingtools.com to help you get started. And I only leave a couple up there because if I leave a whole list of them, you're not going to do anything. I know how this works, okay? Also, don't forget you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen, or find us on any of our social media channels for the bonus section so that you don't miss out on any of the episodes we post. We'd also appreciate it if you would join our mission of becoming people for others and share our content with other people just like you so that they get the help that they need at the point in the life that they need it. Remember this, though, I sign off the same way every single time. Nobody's coming for you. Nobody. So go get to work on a plan for your life, your own life. Get to work on your own plan. And we will see you in the next episode to help you do just that. Thanks for coming.